Okay, well, good morning, everyone, and welcome to PPA 500. Uh, Hope everyone's doing well today and surviving the wild weather a little bit. I'm teaching from home today. I'm looking out my window and watching it snow by my house. So that's the first time we've had snow in about 12 years where I live. So kind of unusual morning. I told my 16-year-old I would wake him up if there was snow, and so I woke him up, and he went and looked out the window and said, "Cool, I'm going back to sleep." So I guess it wasn't all that exciting once you become a 16-year-old, but we do have snow. We've had some wild weather, so I hope everyone is faring very well despite the wild weather. It is 9 o'clock, so we'll go ahead and get going. I want to be respectful of your time this morning. I know that I took last Saturday morning away from you, and I don't want to take this entire Saturday morning away from you as well. So I think we'll do a relatively short session this morning. All I really want to do this morning is introduce the course to you, talk a bit about what we're going to be doing in 500, why we are doing it, some of the assignments and the due dates, and just make sure everyone's on the same page with what we're doing, why we're doing it, and when we are doing it. And then take you to our Canvas site. And I'm sure most of you, I think everyone is now pretty much enrolled in the Canvas site and enrolled in the course. So you probably had a chance to take a look at the Canvas site, but I'd like to walk you through the Canvas site and show you where all the resources are at in order for you to successfully complete the class. And we, as a university, we have just transitioned to Canvas. In fact, a lot of faculty have not yet moved from Beachboard to Canvas. They're not required to do that until the summer. But for this cohort, we thought just for the sake of consistency, we would just start with Canvas rather than having you switch learning platforms after a couple of courses. So this is my first semester teaching in Canvas, and so there is a little bit of a learning curve. And so yeah, over the past couple of days, I've been adding some links onto our Canvas site to make it as user-friendly as possible in terms of finding documents and finding assignments. That's about all we really have on our agenda for today, is to go over the course and to take a look at our Canvas site. But thank you for everyone who is in attendance at our orientation last Saturday morning. I hope that orientation was useful for you and it answered any questions that you had regarding the program. Again, if any questions emerge, feel free to email me, email Geraldine, Matt Reimers over in CPACE. It's oftentimes a good strategy to include all three of us on the emails, just so we're all in the loop. Matt handles all of your registration and enrollment issues and fees and all those things. He handles that over in CPACE. Geraldine and I handle the academic side of the equation. And so any academic issues that you run into or academic questions you may have, we are the ones that you would contact for those. But I thought at the end of our session this morning, I'll open it up for any questions you have about the program or the course, and we'll handle some of those questions you may have when we are done covering our course material. So I have shared out on the screen for you our syllabus for PPA 500. I've been tinkering with it a little bit here and there over the past couple of days, and so I think I have the most recent version uploaded into our Canvas site. But if you downloaded it a few days ago, there are a couple of really small changes, just cleaning up some of the language and some of the dates and things like that. But the content is still the same as it's always been up there on our Canvas site. So you know this is PPA 500. This is your first course in the program. And the purpose of this course is to not only introduce you to the MPA program, but also to introduce you to the field of public administration. And so we'll spend quite a bit of time in this course talking about what is public administration as a field of study, what is public administration as an academic discipline, the development of some of the theoretical perspectives and approaches to studying public administration, and really acclimate you well to this idea of public administration. Because after all, you are in an MPA program, so it is distinct and separate from another program such as an MBA, a business administration program. So we'll talk about some of those distinctions and what makes an MPA different than an MBA. But in doing so, one of the goals of this class is also to place public administration within the greater environment of American government, because so much of what we do, obviously, as public administrators, we do in public organizations, and public organizations are obviously located within the institutions of American government. And so many people come into this program with a variety of different backgrounds. You know, some folks are political science majors, and some are engineering majors, some are history majors, some are psychology majors, really all over the map in terms of academic undergraduate degrees. So it's important in this course that we really establish that level playing field for everyone in terms of an understanding of American government and where public administration resides within that environment of American government. So that's the real purpose of this PPA 500 course. But before I get in too much into the objectives of the course and the details of the course, again, you know who I am, and I've been the director of the program now since 2004. So year 18 or 19, I start to lose count. I first took over the program with, it was really cohort number 5. That was my first entire cohort that I was the director for. And we're now in cohort 23. So we're moving along well in terms of our cohorts. Program has been around since 1997. So as I told you last week, it's one of the oldest distance learning MPA programs, accredited MPA programs in the entire country. You know what our meeting times are. We meet today, we'll meet the last Saturday of the course, and then for the intervening 6 weeks, we meet on Monday evenings at 6 o'clock from 6 to officially 9:45, but I highly doubt we'll go to 9:45 on any of those evenings. I try to be respectful of the fact that I know many of you are working all day long and you're rushing home to attend class and you have family obligations. And so I've really found that oftentimes once we get to about 3 hours of class time, we're all kind of done. You know, I'm kind of done, you're kind of done. And so the utility of going beyond 3 hours sometimes is kind of questionable. So we'll usually be able to end our sessions by about 9 o'clock every Monday, sometimes a little bit earlier, depending upon the topics that we are covering. I will be teaching some of these class sessions from home like I am today. Some of them I'll be teaching from my office on campus, and there'll be a limited number, 1, maybe 2, that I'll be teaching from out of town. I know, you know, for instance, our April the 3rd session, I will be presenting a paper at a conference out of state. And so I'll be having the course session from out of state. So I've done that many times in the past. It's worked fine. But just to let you know, sometimes when I'm teaching from out of town, the internet connectivity can be somewhat questionable. And so if I start having bandwidth issues, I usually flick my camera off just to save on some of that bandwidth. Even from when I'm teaching from home, at times we have some internet connectivity issues. And so I will turn my camera off if I see any buffering or anything like that going on. So don't think I'm rude if I turn my camera off. It's just to try and save on some bandwidth. Speaking of cameras, I leave it completely up to you whether or not you want to have your camera on during the session. You are certainly welcome to, but I don't require it. Technically, distance learning instructors can require students to have their cameras on because this is the only, this is basically the only modality this course is offered in. I don't, and so it's completely up to you. I do encourage you, though, to participate during the session, and I'll be asking questions, asking for your feedback once we get to our substantive information starting on Monday night. You can participate either through text chat, and so if you don't have it open yet, you can go ahead and click on chat and open up your text chat box, and several people already have it open. And you can always place questions and observations in text chat. And as we're going through class, I always keep a close eye on text chat to make sure that I can address any questions or any comments that go into text chat. Anything you put in text chat, you can do private messages, but the instructor sees all the private messages. So just be forewarned that anything goes in text chat, the host of the session can see anything in text chat. You can also communicate using your microphone. That's absolutely fine as well, but I leave that completely up to you. So I give you that type of flexibility. Some of your future instructors in the program will require that you have your cameras on. Some will certainly have a preference for using microphone over text chat. So it's kind of instructor dependent and the way in which they like to approach it in terms of their andragogical methods. I just typically like to be a little bit more flexible and give you the opportunity to participate how you are comfortable participating. We're also going to do some breakout groups during our Monday evening sessions. I like to do those breakout groups because you are a cohort, and so you all are going to be getting to know each other very well over the next 2 years. And there's no better place to start than in your 500 class. And so usually on Monday nights, once we finish covering our information, I'll then put you into breakout groups, and we'll do it randomly so that each week you'll be able to participate with different individuals and just kind of get to know each other as a cohort, so that by the time we're done with 500, hopefully everyone will have been in a breakout group with everyone else in the cohort, and you'll really start to build that community. One of the nice things about a cohort program like this is that you do build that community. You really do build that system of supporting each other. We have cohorts, cohort number 5, for instance, and they went through the program back in 2005, graduate in 2007. They still get together on a monthly basis, and they still have lunch. Not everyone in the cohort, but there are like 8 to 10 of them that still get together and have lunch on a monthly basis. And so many of the cohorts, you build these types of lifelong friendships, and so you can really start building those friendships and relationships here in PPA 500. Let's see, what else can I tell you in terms of the course meetings? You know when the meeting dates are, every Monday at 6 o'clock. I have my contact information there on the syllabus, and hopefully everyone can see the syllabus that I'm sharing out with you. My office location's on there. I'm in the SSPA building, that stands for Social Science and Public Affairs. I am on campus, but not that frequently this semester, because all of the courses I am teaching this semester happen to be remote classes. And so even the on-campus courses I'm teaching are being done through Zoom. So I'm not on campus nearly as much as I used to be back when I was department chair, but I do have that office on campus. My phone number's on there, but since I'm not working from the office as much as I'm working remotely, voicemail is not a great way to contact me, because I will not have access to my voicemail messages very frequently. Email is by far the best way to contact me. I have my emails pushed to my phone, and so I will return your emails very quickly, usually within a couple of hours, no longer than 24 hours. If you send me an email and you haven't gotten a response within 24 hours, nudge me with another email, because it means it just kind of fell through the cracks. But I usually try to respond very, very quickly. Don't be shocked if you get a response in a minute or two, because that just means I'm on my phone and I can respond from my phone. So email is by far the best way to contact me. In terms of the official office hours, the university requires at least they require one office hour per 3-unit course that is being taught. The office hour for this class is Mondays from 3 to 4. I will obviously be available outside of those hours. I know people may be working during that time. And so if you need to contact me, you can contact me anytime that you want. And I'm happy to respond to you and answer your questions. So that's just kind of the official office hour, but it doesn't mean that's the only time that I am available. But you need to contact me, definitely do it through email as opposed to voicemail. Now I'm going to go through the syllabus, and as I go through the syllabus, if I'll stop every now and then and ask if there are any questions. But if any questions emerge or anything that's not clear in the syllabus as we go through it, feel free to either put your questions in text chat or flag me down, and you can ask the questions. I just want to make sure everyone's very clear on what we're doing, when we're doing it, and how we're doing it by the time we leave this morning. So let me scroll down a little bit here. Course introduction, I've already kind of mentioned a little bit about the course. It is a survey-oriented course as the introductory course in the program. There are no prerequisites for the course. We don't do any real research papers in this course because we are an introductory course. Your future courses in the program, you will be doing some research. And so I'll talk to you in a second about a library tutorial that is being provided for you and a video that you can watch prepared by our librarian. But you won't be doing a whole lot of research here in this class. What our job in this class is to introduce you to the major theories and the major principles of public policy and administration, talk about things such as federalism and intergovernmental relations, separation of powers, which we will do on Monday night. We'll talk about different types of organization theories. We'll talk about different theories for managing human resources, different theories for managing fiscal resources and budgeting, what public administrators do in terms of formulation, implementation, evaluation of public policies and public programs. We'll talk about ethics in a couple of weeks. We'll talk about the heightened ethical and accountability standards for public administrators as compared to their counterparts in the private sector. We'll talk about major differences between public and private sectors and public and private organizations, and spend a good bit of time talking about the discipline of public administration. And you'll be able to actually formulate your own opinion about whether or not public administration is truly a standalone academic discipline. And there certainly is some controversy in the field about whether public administration is its own academic discipline, or if public administration is merely a subfield within another discipline, such as political science. But where we start the course on Monday is we start the course with some foundational principles of American government, because it's important to know where public administration sits within this environment of American government and American governmental institutions. And so you'll see that you've got some readings such as the Articles of Confederation, the Constitution, some selected Federalist Papers. We're going to cover all that on Monday to kind of create this context of where public administration sits in American government. Understanding that not everyone is coming into the program with a lot of experience with American government courses. Now, if you're a political science major, a lot of the things we're going to talk about on Monday, it's going to be a refresher for you. But if you haven't had American government in quite a while, then it could be some new information that's important for understanding where public administration fits. So those are the kind of concepts we're going to be talking about and covering in this class. I've got 4 main course objectives for this course. Number 1, to comply with the requirements of the MPA program and its policies. You got a lot of that introductory information on the program last Saturday. We'll reiterate some of that information as we go through our 6 weeks together here in 500. Articulate the basic concepts of American government and political institutions, again, to create that environment of public administration. Apply the major theories and themes of public policy and administration, and to articulate the basic elements and major subfields in the study of public administration. Again, as you know, we will be meeting every Monday evening with the exception of the week of March 27th to April 2nd, because that is the official spring break for Cal State Long Beach. Since the stateside courses are on spring break that week, we also have to observe that spring break as well. It's one of our requirements, and so we will not have classes during that week of spring break. The Zoom link, you had the Zoom link, obviously, that allowed you to log into this class. I've also then provided the Zoom links for our Monday sessions and our last Saturday session. Those are provided in the Canvas site, and I'll show you where you can locate those if you haven't found those yet. I use a recurring link for our Monday session, so it's going to be the same link for each one of our 6 Monday sessions. I've already talked about course organization, so the required textbooks, we provided these to you, a list of these to you earlier, so you could acquire the textbooks. The main textbook is Don Kettle's Politics of the Administrative Process. It's a very good, very readable type of book, very user-friendly book. Don is a very well-known person in public administration. I've had the opportunity to serve on a few panels with him, and he's, again, one of those kind of heavyweights, if you will, in the field of public administration. Then your other textbook is the classics text. And this is a book that will probably be not only useful for you in this course, but will be useful for you in future courses such as PPA 660 organization theory. I think it's important in this course that you have the opportunity to read some of these classical articles yourself and form your own opinions rather than just listening to what I have to say about those classical articles. And so we're certainly not reading every single article in the classics textbook, but we will read a selection of those articles as noted in our course outline in our schedule. So those are your 2 textbooks. If you can get older versions, that would be cheaper. That usually will suffice, especially for the Kettle textbook. If you're getting an older version of the classics textbook, just make sure that all the articles we are covering are also then covered in that older version of the classics text. But older versions oftentimes save you a little bit of money. Now, I allow you to do that here in 500. Some of your future instructors will want you to have the most recent edition of the textbook, depending upon the instructor and depending upon the class. So it's always a question you can ask your instructors in future courses if they're willing to accept older versions of the textbook. I am, but not everyone will be as amenable to that as I am. Additional articles, additional readings appear in your Canvas site. And so things like the 3 Federalist Papers I have listed there, the Articles Confederation, the Constitution. In addition, as we move through the course, I also have some examples on the Canvas site that we'll be referring to when we talk about different approaches to managing fiscal resources and different approaches to managing human resources. I've got, for instance, a link there for the American Society for Public Administration, their code of ethics that we will deal with, not this Monday, but the following Monday. So there's some additional documentation, some additional resources in our Canvas site for you outside of just the Kettle and the Shaffer's text. Whenever you see an article that is listed in our syllabus, that article can be found in the classics textbook. So all those articles are pulling directly from the Shaffer's and Hyde classics text. Evaluative criteria. I teach the 500 course on campus for our stateside students, and I've changed up the requirements a little bit here for our DL program to make sense with our DL program. One of the assignments that I've gotten rid of for our version of this course is a draft advancement to candidacy form. I usually require my 500 students to put together a draft advancement form. I then review it, give them feedback on their courses and their course sequencing. You guys don't have to worry about that because you're all taking the same courses and we will all advance to candidacy at the same time as a cohort. So that assignment I've removed from our evaluative criteria. So your grades will be evaluated on an initial skills self-assessment, which is worth 10 points, a midterm assessment. And as we talked about last week, I don't use exams like a lot of classes use. In this class, we use what we call an assessment. And the assessment is different than an exam in that the assessment is really an assessment tool whereby you have the opportunity to apply theories and concepts to somewhat practical scenarios in the public sector. And there are no right or wrong answers to any of these scenarios on the midterm and final assessment. Your performance on those assessments will be assessed based upon your justification for your answer. So there could be multiple quote unquote correct answers for a scenario. You choose one and then you justify why you believe that is the most appropriate theory or concept to use in that given scenario. So it is different than an exam. We're not looking for right or wrong answers. We're looking for your ability to justify the answers that you are providing. And as we get closer to the midterm, I always open the midterm exam up at least 2 weeks before it is due. And so in that that Monday session, 2 weeks before it's due, I think that will probably be what the 12th. So like our 3rd session together. I will share the midterm assessment with you. We'll go through all the scenarios on the midterm assessment and make sure everyone's very clear on what the midterm is asking you to do. And I can field any questions you have about any of those scenarios. I kind of like to go over the assessment as a class just so everyone is ready to go and ready to work on those assessments. Again, the assessments will be open at least 2 weeks before they are due. And so you'll have time to work on it at your leisure. You'll also be able to use whatever information you have at your disposal. So it is, I guess you want to call it open book. I guess we'll call it open book. You can use information from our sessions, which of course, all of our sessions are being recorded and a link will be provided on our campus site. So you can go back and rewatch any of those sessions that you feel you need to. You use any of the information from the Kettle textbook, any of the information from the articles in the classics textbook. All of that is fair game then to allow you to complete the midterm as well as the final assessment. There are 5 scenarios on both the midterm as well as the final assessment. And then there are 2 questions related to each of those 5 scenarios. So 5 scenarios, a total of 10 questions. Each scenario worth 20 points. Obviously, that means each question is worth 10 points for a grand total of 100 points on the midterm assessment as well as the final assessment. And then there's the Canvas essays. And you'll be doing 5 graded Canvas essays throughout the duration of this course. Each of those Canvas essays will require you to respond to a prompt that I place in the discussion area for that week. That reply is usually about 2, 3, 4 paragraphs, so you don't have to be too long. You can be very parsimonious and concise. So in 2 or 3, 4 paragraphs, You just respond to that prompt I provided for you. That initial response from you is worth 20 points. And then you'll also be responding to the postings of 2 of your classmates. Each response to a classmate's worth 5 points. So a grand total of 30 points for your 3 posts each week. 5 of those for a total of 150 points for your Canvas essays. And we'll talk a little bit more about the Canvas essays in just a second. When you add it all up, you have a grand total of 360 points for the course. The grading scale is that traditional 90, 80, 70, 60 type of split. We do not have pluses and minuses here at Cal State Long Beach. We have taken campus-wide votes on it 3 times in my 22 years here at Long Beach. And in all 3 of those campus votes, faculty overwhelmingly vote for the plus and minus system. Students overwhelmingly vote against the plus and minus system. There are a lot more students than there are faculty, so the students always win, and the plus minus system goes down to defeat. Faculty like the plus minus system because it gives us some gradations in terms of our grading. You know, when you're at the graduate level, most of the grades at the graduate level are going to congregate around the A and the B range, and that's just kind of the nature of graduate study. And, you know, D grades obviously do not count. Only A, B's, and C grades will count for your courses to apply to your degree. So mostly our grades hover around the A and the B level. So sometimes it's nice to have those pluses and minuses to distinguish between someone who got a 98% and someone who got a 90%. But we don't have that. And so a person who gets a 98%, person who gets a 90%, both those individuals end up getting an A for the course. So it's just kind of the nature of the beast here at Long Beach. We don't have pluses or minuses. What I do have, though, is I have a 1% flexibility rule, which means that if you do all the work, you turn everything in on time, you give what I like to refer to as the old graduate school try, then if you come in at 89% at the end of the class, I will give you the 1% bump up to the 90% and the A. Come in at 79%, you'll get the 1% bump up to the B. So you get that 1% bump as long as you have turned everything in on time. Grading rubrics, I won't go through these in detail, but some rubrics are there for the midterm and the final assessment, as well as for the Canvas essays. Again, as you're doing these Canvas essays, your initial post needs to be parsimonious. So you're addressing, you know, my prompt, but you're doing it in a very concise way. 2 or 3, 4 paragraphs somewhere in there is certainly sufficient for that initial post. Then your responses to your classmates, each response to a classmate doesn't have to be longer than a paragraph. I think 1 paragraph for each response is certainly going to be sufficient. What I have found in the past is that the Canvas essays have a tendency to inflate grades a little bit, and that people tend to do very well on the Canvas essays as long as your posts are concise, as long as they are proofread. So make sure you proofread your posts, that they are devoid of you know, fragments and things such as that. Make sure that it really hangs together well in terms of academic writing. If you are going to use any outside resources to support your argument in your post, be sure to just cite those at the bottom of your post, just in APA format. Give me citations for those references. For most weeks, you're not required to include references or a lot of references there. So you probably won't have a whole lot of references in your Canvas essays, but if you do use outside information, do make sure to cite it. But for the most part, people do well as long as they put some thought into their Canvas essays, and they've and again, they, you know, they look like they're good academic writing, that there aren't a whole lot of errors and a whole lot of mistakes in them. So they do tend to kind of inflate the grades a little bit. I understand that, and I'm fine with that because it's not really my concern. I mean, if everyone in the class gets A's, that's okay with me. It doesn't really bother me. What I'm concerned about is what you're able to take away from the class in terms of the substance that you get, that it prepares you to then be successful in the rest of the MPA program. And if it prepares you to be successful in the rest of the MPA program, I don't get very concerned about grade distributions. It's not really something I worry too much about. I do understand that grades are important. You know, I've sat in your seat, and I've been a graduate student, and I know how important those grades are. just know from my perspective, it's more important what you get out of the class as opposed to the final grade that you leave the class with. But I do have just a very general grading rubric there: excellent, good, average, unacceptable. But most of the Canvas essays certainly tend to be in that excellent range, maybe the good range, but usually most of them are in the excellent range. After you get that first Canvas essay done and you get my feedback on it, then you'll have a really good sense moving forward. If there are any tweaks or any modifications you need to make to your writing, you'll get that type of feedback from me. Now, on a weekly basis, I'm not going to go into the discussion area and engage in the discussion because I really want to reserve that for you. I want you to be able to have those discussions with your fellow cohort members. And I really have felt that in the past, if I've gone in there and I've started placing comments in there, sometimes it has kind of a depressing impact upon the freedom people feel to really actively participate. So I really want that to be your area where you can participate. All of my feedback on your posts, you will get through the grading area. So that feedback will be private. It'll just be feedback that goes directly to you rather than me providing feedback in front of everybody in that discussion area. But you will get feedback from me in that feedback box whenever I return the grade to you. The initial skills self-assessment, this 10-point assignment. This is essentially a credit, no credit type of assignment. So you turn in the initial skills self-assessment, you'll get the 10 points. The only way you don't get the 10 points is if you neglect to turn in the assignment. But it's kind of a credit, no credit thing. And let me go ahead and just scroll down to the bottom of the syllabus. I have appended let me make this a little bit quicker. Let's move some stuff around here. I have appended a copy of the initial skills self-assessment to the end of the syllabus. Also, I have a copy available for you in a couple of different places on our Canvas site, but this is the initial skills self-assessment. Let me give you a little bit of background on what it is and why we use it, and then I'll give you some specifics on what you were doing. The whole idea behind this initial skills self-assessment is that we have a very robust, and somewhat complex, but a robust assessment system in our program for assessing student learning outcomes. If you remember at our orientation last week, we talked about the importance of being a NASPA accredited program and having this national accreditation. We said one of the requirements of NASPA is that all programs will communicate 5 universal competencies to their students, so that when students leave a NASPA accredited program, they will leave equipped with those 5 universal required competencies. Well, in order to know how good of a job we are doing with those 5 universal required competencies, we need to have some type of assessment of student learning outcomes program. And so way back in 2007, in my first go around as department chair, I was at a NASPA meeting. Actually, I was sitting in a panel and listening to people bemoan how difficult it is to measure student learning outcomes for graduate public affairs students. And so while they were talking on the panel, I sat out there in the audience for 2 hours and I sketched out an assessment plan, brought it back to our faculty, and we tweaked it and worked on it a little bit. And then in 2007, we put together this assessment system. One of the elements of the assessment system is to bookend self-assessments at the beginning and the end of the program. And these initial skills self-assessment will provide you with the opportunity to assess your own skill set as you are entering the MPA program. Then as you are leaving the program, once you complete your 5 cases in PPA 697, you will then redo this as part of what we call a final skills self-assessment. That allows you the opportunity to compare your initial skills self-assessment upon entering the program with your final skills self-assessment upon leaving the program, and do a self-assessment of how your perceived skills have increased throughout your time in the program. It also affords us as a faculty the opportunity to do the same thing. And so this initial skills self-assessment you're doing here in 500, and the final skills self-assessment that you'll be doing in 697, those will then go into part 1 of your student learning portfolio. Then every spring, it'll be Dr. Butts now, but when I was chair, I would then get a random selection of portfolios and compare the initial and the final skills self-assessment to assess how skills have increased or how people's perception of the skills have increased over their time in the program. And it really is shocking to see the statistically significant increase in self-perceived skills from entering the program to leaving the program. And to give you an example, in part one of this initial skills self-assessment, you will be ranking your experience and knowledge, really your knowledge on all these different aspects of the program on an ordinal scale from 1 to 5, 1 being no knowledge and 5 being a great deal of knowledge. And typically what we see for most of those skills on the initial skills self-assessment, the scores tend to hover around about a 1.8 or 1.9. Then on the final skills self-assessment, the scores are well over 4. So I mean, it's a really statistically significant increase in people's self-perceived abilities throughout their time in the program. So that's the whole goal of this initial skills self-assessment. So it's an opportunity for you to begin building your student learning portfolio, because this will be the very first thing that goes into your student learning portfolio in part 1. So what we do is this initial skills self-assessment is broken up into 3 different segments. The first part is that ordinal ranking. So as you can see on the screen, please indicate how much you already know about each area and how important you think each of these areas will be to your work in the public and nonprofit sector or your future career. So how much you know about these areas: budgeting and finance, decision-making, ethics, oral communications, organization behavior, human resource management, policy analysis, problem solving, research and statistics, teamwork, and written communications. So we'll be ranking how much you know in those areas, your knowledge level from a scale of 1 to 5. And yes, it is subjective, but it's supposed to be subjective because it's very much of a self-appraisal, a self-perception of how much you know in these different areas. So that's a pretty quick thing for you to do, because you're just indicating numbers between 1 and 5 for each of those areas. That shouldn't take you very long at all. Then in part 2, we ask you to please discuss your experience and or skills in the following areas of budgeting and finance, which you'll get in your PPA 500 course, human resource management skills that you'll get in 577, organization theory skills that you'll get in 660, policy analysis skills that you'll get in 670, and research method skills that you'll get in 696. So just a sentence or two telling us what your current level of experience is in each one of those 5 core curriculum areas. Again, it's just a sentence or two, and if you don't have any experience in these areas, that is absolutely fine. If you don't have any experience in these areas, just you can simply say that. You can simply say, I have no experience in public budgeting and finance, or I have never managed a public budget. Absolutely fine. You can tell us that because it's an honest assessment. And then in part 3, please discuss your reasons for pursuing the MPA degree and what specific skills you hope to acquire in the program. So why are you getting the MPA and what do you hope to get out of the program? Again, just a paragraph there is certainly going to be sufficient. So that's what we call our initial skills self-assessment. It's one of the first assignments you'll be turning. I think we have it due, let me double check. I think it's on March 12th, I believe. Yes, on March 12th. And that will then be the first part of that student learning portfolio that you'll then be submitting after you've completed 697. So you'll be turning that in, credit, no credit, 10 points for turning it in. If you don't turn it in, you don't get the 10 points, obviously. So any questions on the initial skills self-assessment? Okay. If not, then we'll move on into our course schedule. What will we be talking about and when will we be discussing it? Well, obviously today is our short session. We're just going to cover the syllabus and the Canvas site, and that's all we're going to be doing today. Mission and values, I've already covered that in our orientation last Saturday, so no need to go over that again. Introduction to the program, we already did at our orientation last Saturday, so no reason to do that either. A couple of things I would like for you to do this weekend before our class on Monday, and they're very quick and very easy things to do. One is to post a brief introductory post on Canvas. Just whatever you feel comfortable sharing about yourself with the cohort, who you are, maybe what you do for a living, just your hobbies, whatever you're comfortable sharing. You're not required to share anything you're not comfortable sharing. Make sure you're comfortable with it. But just a couple of sentences, just to introduce you to the rest of your cohort members. You all get to know each other very well over the next 2 years, but this is just kind of a get to know you type of introductory post. So it shouldn't take you very long at all. Then I also have an American government pre-assessment. I'll show you where to find that in our Canvas site in just a moment. But this is something new that I added to my 500 courses this semester, because I do know people come into the course from a variety of different educational backgrounds. And in order to help me frame how much time to spend on different concepts of American government on Monday night, I kind of need to know, have a little knowledge check from you. So that's what we're calling our American government pre-assessment. It is ungraded, just like the introductory post, it's ungraded, so you won't get any grade for it. And this one is anonymous, the pre-assessment. So I don't know, I can't link answers to people. No one can link answers to people. So all the answers you're giving are completely anonymous. It is a time type of pre-assessment, so it will only take 4 minutes out of your life. So I really do hope that you do this before Monday. I'm asking you to do it before our class begins on Monday. So anytime between now and 6 p.m. on Monday evening, because on Monday evening, we're going to get into American government. And so you'll get a lot of the answers to the pre-assessment on Monday. So I really need you to do it before 6 p.m. on Monday. There are 20 multiple choice questions on this pre-assessment. You have 4 minutes to do those 20 multiple choice questions. And I only make it 4 minutes because I don't want you Googling things. I just want you at the top of your head to be able to give me an answer to these different issues. But again, it's all completely anonymous, completely ungraded. It's just a true pre-assessment of how much you know about some different salient elements of American government and California government as well. I've got a couple of California government questions in that pre-assessment. Again, it just helps me to know what we need to spend more time on Monday and what we can kind of brush through very quickly. And so if everyone knows the answer to a question, then obviously we don't spend a whole lot of time on it. But some other issues of American government, if the majority of people don't know the answer to it, then we'll spend a little bit more time talking about those parts of American government on Monday. So again, to clarify, this weekend, you can do your introductory posts and then also do this anonymous pre-assessment on American government. Get those 2 assignments done by Monday, and we will be in good shape to go. Then on Monday, we will do our Foundations of American Democracy. Some of the readings that you have there is you have the Articles of Confederation, you have the Constitution. We will not go through all the different parts of the Articles of Confederation on Monday night. As you probably already know, the Articles of Confederation served as our first Constitution for a few years, was then replaced by our current Constitution. We will go through our Constitution, though, on Monday night. So we'll go through all 7 articles and 27 amendments to the Constitution on Monday night. So, please read through the Constitution. I'm sure you probably looked at the Constitution previously in some previous courses, but we really don't have a lot of opportunity to sit down and really talk about the Constitution. And it's important for us as public administrators to know the Constitution, because we have this thing called qualified good faith immunity, meaning that as public administrators, we have a certain limited amount of immunity for our actions, as long as our actions do not violate the constitutional rights of those that we come into contact with. So we have an obligation as public administrators to know and then not violate the constitutional rights of citizens that we are dealing with. So it's important for us to have a general understanding of the Constitution. I've then also provided for you 3 select Federalist Papers. And we'll talk about the Federalist Papers on Monday night and what they were and their purpose. But I pulled out 3 of them, and 2 of them I want you to focus on. And that's Federalist Paper number 10 and Federalist Paper number 39. 51 we won't talk a lot about, but we'll really focus on 10 and 39. 10 looks at factions, that's Madison telling us about factions, and it will form the basis for your first graded Canvas essay. So in order to do that first graded Canvas essay, you'll need to have read Federalist Paper number 10. And then Federalist Paper number 39, again written by James Madison, provides for us a rationale for the Constitution and why the Constitution is nothing to be feared, and why the Constitution is a combination of both a national as well as a federal approach. So Articles of Confederation, the Constitution, and those 3 Federalist Papers, with an emphasis placed upon Federalist Papers number 10 and number 39. Then your first graded Canvas essay is due by March 5th. Again, you're going to be giving me a response to the prompt I provided for you, and then a response to 2 of your classmates. And those responses to your classmates, as we said, about a paragraph would certainly be sufficient for each one of those responses. So Monday will be American government, creating this context and this environment. And depending upon how quickly we progress through that information, I then have a breakout group assignment that we'll do near the end of class. If we're running long, we can always do that the following week, but we'll see how we proceed in terms of our coverage of American government. And again, what we cover and how we cover it will be based upon how you perform on that pre-assessment of American government. Then in our second week, on March 6th, we will focus primarily on accountability and ethics. And we will talk about the basis of accountability. We'll talk about why the accountability standards are higher in the public as compared to the private sector. We'll talk about some of the difficulties in holding public administrators accountable for their actions. I will introduce you to the American Society for Public Administration Code of Ethics. And in our Canvas site, I have a link to that Code of Ethics. And we'll talk about what it means to be in public service and why that's an important distinction, public service versus working in the private sector. You have your readings, chapter 1 in the Kettle textbook, and then there's one article from the classics text by Bennington and Moore. And then you'll have your initial skills self-assessment that will be due by March the 12th, and your second Canvas essay due by March the 12th as well. And in that second Canvas essay, you will be selecting 3 of the principles from the ASPA Code of Ethics and talking about why those 3 could be difficult for either you or your organization. And again, that's a graded Canvas essay, response to the prompt, and then responses to 2 of your classmates. And whenever I say an assignment is due by a certain date, I mean by 11:59 and 59 seconds p.m. on that date. So just get it turned in before midnight, before the clock turns over to the next day. So you have the entire day on March 12th to turn in those 2 assignments, the initial skills self-assessment and Canvas essay number 2. Then we'll move into week number 3 on the 13th, and we'll talk about the scope of government. We'll talk about the size and scope of government in the public sector, and we'll spend most of our time talking about public versus private organizations. And you have chapter 2 in the Kettle textbook, and then a great article by Graham Allison looking at public and private organizations. The title is Public and Private Sector, Are They Alike in All Unimportant Respects? And we'll base our discussion off of Graham Allison and his argument in that article and really delineate the differences between the 2 sectors and also talk about some of the similarities between those 2 sectors to give us a foundation for then talking about public administration as a field of study or public administration as an academic discipline. Then in week number 4, on March 20th, we'll really get into that issue of public administration as an academic discipline or a field of study. What is the public administration the study of? We'll talk about what an academic discipline is and the characteristics necessary for being an academic discipline. And then we'll ask the hard question, does public administration meet those characteristics and those criteria? In short, is public administration an academic discipline? And that will be a question that you will be answering. That's not a question that I will give you the answer to. I will give you the tools that you need in order to arrive at your own answer. And there is no right or wrong answer to whether public administration is or is not a discipline. And we'll talk about some of the theoretical approaches that we have developed within the study of public administration. We'll talk about the evolution and development of those theoretical approaches. We'll start in the late 1800s and we'll go all the way to modern times. We'll go through different schools of thought, from the classical school to a variety of neoclassical schools of thought, and show you how our thinking about how to study public organizations has really morphed and has really evolved over the past 150 years. Chapters 2, 3, and 4 in Kettle, and then you have 3 articles from your classics text. Woodrow Wilson, The Study of Administration. And if you took public administration at the undergraduate level, you're already very familiar with Woodrow Wilson and his study of administration. it really is the jumping off point for the idea of studying administration as a separate field of study, separate from the study of politics in political science. Now, Woodrow Wilson's oftentimes referred to as the grandfather of the study of public administration, and rightly so. But we also have to acknowledge some of the failings, some of the major failings of Woodrow Wilson. So much so that a lot of schools around the country have removed Woodrow Wilson from the name of their schools. They've removed his name from their buildings. And we'll acknowledge some of that as well as we talk about the influence he's had on the study of public administration. Good friend Max Weber in the classical school, we'll read his article. And one of my favorite authors, Mary Parker Follett, in the neoclassical school, and you have her article to read as well. Then on the 26th is a very important date because you've got two assignments coming in on the 26th. You have Canvas essay number 3 coming in on the 26th, where you are comparing public and private sector organizations based upon the information from our previous week's discussion. And then you also have your midterm assessment due as well. So 2 weeks before that midterm assessment is due, I will release the midterm assessment on our Canvas site, and we'll take time in class on that Monday night talking about the midterm assessment to make sure everyone is very comfortable with what you're being required to do on that midterm assessment. Then you get a break. Then it's spring break for a week. So no assignments, no class, nothing to do during spring break. Just enjoy yourself. Hopefully it won't be snowing over spring break. And then in our 5th week together on April 3rd, we will get into the public policy process. We'll go through policy formulation, implementation, and evaluation. We'll talk about the role of public administrators in the policy process. We'll also talk about program evaluation, and we'll talk about the role of public administrators in evaluating public programs. We'll create the distinction between public policies and public programs and talk about how they are similar and how they differ from each other. We'll talk about different decision-making models that we use in formulating public policies. I'll introduce you to 4 main decision-making models that are used throughout the study of public administration. And then we'll have a discussion about the term effectiveness and how do we know we are being effective as public administrators and public organizations. And I'll introduce you to 4 different models of effectiveness in the public sector. We'll talk about those 4 models, and you'll be able to consider which of those models is most appropriate for your organization and for what you do on a daily basis. We'll also begin a discussion of the reform that we've had in terms of public employment and the civil service. We'll talk about the importance of a career civil service system and how that civil service system has developed since the late 1700s. We'll go through the era of gentlemen, the era of spoils, and the era of merit. Then you got your assigned readings there as well. And then Canvas essay number 4, which is due on April the 9th. Then we get into our 6th and final week together on April 10th. We will talk about what public administrators do in terms of what types of things they manage. We'll talk about how public administrators manage human resources, how they manage fiscal resources, which will get you ready then for your 577 and your 555 courses. That'll be coming up very quickly. You see your readings there that are assigned. If we have time, we'll get into a little discussion of performance measurement in the public sector as well to kind of wrap everything up. And then you'll have your final Canvas essay due by April 15th. And at our last Saturday session on April 15th, if it is necessary, we'll see how we progress. If we still need to cover information, we will meet on April 15th. That shouldn't be 6 p.m. I don't know why it says 6 p.m. It should be 9 a.m. instead of 6 p.m. So sorry about that. But on that Saturday at 9 a.m., we'll meet if we need to. If we've covered all of our information and we don't need to meet, then I would be inclined to, instead of meeting on that April 15th, give you that day to finish up your final assessment, which will then be due by midnight, 11:59 p.m. on April 15th. But again, not committing to anything. We'll see how we progress and see if we need that final Saturday session in order to cover any remaining information. For your one-stop shopping, I've given you a list of the important due dates that we have for this course over the next 6 weeks. So your initial skills self-assessments due by 11:59 p.m. on March 12th. Midterm assessment due by March 26th, final assessment due by April 15th. We have a total of 8 Zoom sessions, 2 of them on Saturdays, the other 6 on Monday evenings. You can see those all listed there for you. And then the due dates for your Canvas essays, your first introductory post. I'm asking if you can just post your introduction by tomorrow. Again, it's not graded, just a couple sentences will certainly suffice. Then Canvas essay number 1 is due on March 5th. Canvas essay number 2 due on March 12th. Number 3 due on March 26th. Number 4 due on April 9th. And then number 5 due on our final day, which is April the 15th. By April 15th, everything will then be turned in. I will then spend that weekend formulating the final grades. And if everything goes well, then by the following Monday on April 17th, I should have your final grades ready to input into the system. Sometimes it takes the university a beat to remember that we have 6-week courses and that we don't align with the normal semester. So sometimes they don't open up my final grading roster right away, and I have to email enrollment services, but usually it's one email. I email them, they open it up, and I can then enter the grade. So hopefully by April 17th or April 18th, I'll be able to have your final grades inputted into the system for you. We've also then listed all your Canvas essay assignments, all 5 of them. They're also listed in our Canvas site in the area where you'll be posting your responses, just for your ease of access. But just to go over those 5 Canvas essays very quickly, in number 1, again, you should have a very well-written and thoughtful response. Most responses are 3 to 4, 2 to 3 to 4 paragraphs, I usually say, in length. In Federalist number 10, Madison cautioned us against the negative effects of factions. Do you believe that America is more factionalized and divided than in the past? Provide examples to support your position. What can be done to control the effects of factions more effectively? And as always, please respond to 2 classmates. So that's your first Canvas essay post. Canvas essay number 2 should be select 3 of the principles in the ASPA Code of Conduct. And again, we'll talk about those next Monday, that are most challenging for your position and your organization. Explain why these principles are challenging your organization, and please respond to 2 classmates. You'll see as we cover the ASPA Code of Ethics, you'll see that there are 8 principles in the ASPA Code of Ethics. So here I'm asking you to select 3 of those 8 that you think would be difficult either for you or for your organization to implement. And in class next week, when we talk about accountability and ethics, we will pull out some of those principles and talk about why some of those principles historically have been difficult for us to get public administrators to adhere to. Canvas essay number 3, consider Graham Allison's argument regarding similarities and differences between public and private sector management. Using your organization as an example, or if you're not currently in an organization, but I believe pretty much everyone is, but if you're not currently working in an organization, you'll select an organization that you're familiar with or an organization that you are interested in. But using the organization as an example, highlight 2 ways in which your organization is similar to a private organization. Then highlight 2 ways in which your organization differs from a private organization. If you are currently working in a private organization, I know we have a few folks who are, then you'll just reverse the logic. So compare your private organization to a public organization. 2 ways it's similar, 2 ways in which it is different. Obviously, if you're working in a nonprofit organization, you have a choice. You can compare your nonprofit organization either to a public organization or to a private sector organization. So you can really choose if you're working in a nonprofit organization. Canvas essay number 4. This is where we really get into the idea of public administration as an academic discipline. For many years, there's been an ongoing debate regarding whether or not public administration is actually a discipline or merely a subfield within political science. Take a position on whether or not public administration is a discipline and explain why you feel is either a discipline or is not a discipline. We will have an entire week where we will talk about public administration as a discipline. I'll give you some examples of why it can be considered a discipline, and then some examples why it may not be considered a discipline, and then you'll have the opportunity to then generate your own opinion based upon that information. Again, no right or wrong answers. Some people you ask, even on our faculty, if you ask some members of our faculty, they'll say, yes, absolutely, public administration is a discipline. Some other members of the faculty may say, well, it's really more of a subfield of political science. And so even people with the PhDs still debate whether or not public administration is an academic discipline. And then Canvas essay number 5, using the models of decision-making that we cover in class, select one public policy that you are familiar with and discuss which decision-making model was used in the development of that policy. Are there other decision-making models that better characterize this policy process? So selecting one public policy and then applying the decision-making models, so 4 models we cover in class, to the formulation of that public policy. So those are your 5 Canvas essays. Again, remember, there are not right or wrong answers to these essays. That's not how they're being graded. They're being graded upon your justification in terms of the answers that you are providing. And I don't know if I mentioned it on Saturday, but I always like to tell all my courses that I work with that I have a favorite answer and a favorite question. My favorite answer in public administration is it depends, because it really does depend upon the situation. And there rarely are truly right or wrong answers in public administration. There are answers that may be more appropriate in one situation than in another situation, or an answer that may be more appropriate than another answer in that given context of that situation. So I like to say it depends as my favorite answer. Then my favorite question is, so what? So we talk about theories. So we talk about all these different aspects of public administration. We'll talk on Monday about all these different aspects of American government and our unique system of American government. So what? Well, so why are we doing it? What difference does it make? And usually the answer to that so what question is to try and find that nexus between theory and practice. And that's really our goal, not just in this class, but throughout our entire MPA program. You'll be presented with theories and concepts in your future courses in the program. You should always be asking the question, so what? Okay, I'm learning this theory. You know, it's great to learn it from an academic perspective, but so what? How's it going to help me? How is it going to make public administration more efficient, more effective, or more equitable? And so we're always trying to ask that question of so what to find that nexus between theory and practice. So those are your Canvas essay assignments. Again, respond to the initial post and provide a brief response to 2 of your classmates. Late assignments, there is a 10% penalty for all assignments that are late, 10% per 24-hour period that an assignment is late. I do understand that life can intervene in graduate studies. Again, I know a lot of you are working full-time, plus you have family obligations. You know, some folks are in the sandwich generation, as we call it, whereby you have children, plus you also have parents you're caring for. I understand there are a lot of demands placed upon your time, and I am certainly sympathetic to that. If for some reason life does intervene and you're not able to get an assignment in by the due date, please reach out to me, send me an email, tell me what's going on, and I'm sure we can find an extension for you to avoid the late penalty. I can only avoid that late penalty if you reach out to me in advance to let me know what's going on. So communication is really, really important in this program. Always be sure to communicate with your instructors. And most instructors have been teaching in this program for a very long time. I've been teaching this program for 22 years now. Dr. Butts has been teaching in this program since he joined the university, I think 7 years ago. Dr. Matthews has been teaching the program since she joined the university. I think she's in her 3rd year. No, she's her 6th year, I believe she's in. And so Dr. Martin's been teaching the program as long as I have. And so we've all been in the program for a long time. We understand some of the unique challenges that arise when you're working full time and trying to pursue an academic program. So just communicate with us and let us know what's going on. And we certainly are there to help you. Our ultimate goal is to help you through the program and make sure that you successfully complete the program. One of the great things about the DL program is, probably because it's a cohort-based program, we have very high graduation rates. And so if we have 26 people entering a program, typically we usually end up graduating 24 or 25 of those 26 people. That's very common. So, and we're here to help you along the way. All assignments are done electronically, so everything will be submitted through our Canvas site. I have assigned links there, drop boxes where you'll be able to submit your assignments. All your Canvas essays you'll be posting directly into the discussion forum, but I will take you through the Canvas site in just a second and show you how all that is done. Withdrawals, again, if something comes up and you're not able to complete a class, you need to reach out to the instructor, include Geraldine and include me as well on that email. It'd be nice to include Matt Reimers as well from CPACE, and then we can work out a plan to help you take the course in the future. Because what will end up happening is if you have to drop out of a course in this cohort, you will then have to take that course with the next cohort, cohort number 24. And so we have to kind of time things up to make sure the timing of the courses work for you. But hopefully that won't be an issue with anyone. Incompletes, I usually don't give incompletes. Usually they're only reserved for extraordinary circumstances. The university requires that students have 2/3 of their course requirements done in order to qualify for an incomplete in a class. So you have to have the lion's share of the work done before you can even qualify for an incomplete. Students with disabilities, if you are registered now, it's not Disability Student Services, now is called BMAC, BMAC. It's the Bob Murphy Accessibility Center, I believe it is, but BMAC. If there are some, if you have some disabilities, you need to register with BMAC. BMAC will then put together a accommodations letter. We'll then send that accommodations letter out to me. I've never rejected an accommodation to a class, but do make sure you register with BMAC in order to get those accommodations. For this class, the accommodations aren't really as important as they would be for a class that has timed exams. We don't have any timed exams, so there aren't really a whole lot of accommodations, except for maybe an extra day or two on assignments. But if you're in that situation, make sure to register with BMAC and then let me know. In terms of attendance at our Monday evening sessions, I leave that completely up to you. You are a professional, and so you can decide. I know for some folks, you may have city council meetings or governing board meetings or work obligations that may interfere every now and then. If so, the sessions are all recorded, and the recordings will be provided on our campus site, so you can always go and watch those recordings. And if you have any questions, can ask me any of those questions you may have. Everyone meets the technological requirements because you're all here today, so we're fine there. In terms of changes to the syllabus, I don't make a whole lot of change to the syllabus once it's set, and the syllabus is set now. If for some reason we are running behind on information, we may have to push information from one week to the next. Those are kind of the only changes that we'll end up making to the syllabus. If there's a due date that is wrong, we'll have to change that. But for the most part, I think the syllabus is pretty well set as it is. So the rest of the syllabus are just the university policy in terms of the items that need to be included on all syllabi across the entire university. So I won't bore you by going through all that, but that's all there for your edification. And that's the course, that's the syllabus. I've been talking for a while now. So anyone have any course related questions at all? Any questions on the syllabus, course requirements, anything at all like that?
Hi, I have a question regarding the due date for responses to the campus essays.
Yeah, that's a great question. All three responses, the initial response, the responses to classmates, are technically due by those due dates listed in the syllabus. However, I'm glad you mentioned them. It's a perfect question to ask. That I do recommend that your initial post, you try and get that initial post done earlier in the week, because if everyone waits to do their initial post until that Sunday, everyone's going to be rushing to respond because there'll be nothing to respond to throughout the week. And so I do ask, if you can, get that initial post done earlier in the week, so at least your classmates will have something to respond to. But technically, all three of those posts each week must be done by that due date listed in the syllabus. That's a great point. I forgot to mention that. We'll try and get that initial post done earlier so we at least have something to read and respond to. Good. I'll give you a snow update. The snow update is the skies are now blue. So I guess that's the end of the snow. We had about an hour of snow and it didn't stick, but it's the first snow we've had in 12 years. So all done and over with.
I just wanted to clarify on the readings that are posted for each class session. Are those the readings due prior to our Monday night class or after? I'm assuming it's prior to.
Exactly. You're exactly right.
Okay.
It's prior to. So yeah, if you can do those readings, I'll then prepare you for what we're going to talk about on that Monday evening. Exactly. Okay, let me stop the share and let me share out. It's not there. Let me just share my screen. That's probably the easiest way to do it. Let me go to our Canvas site. Okay, so here's our Canvas site. Hopefully you can see it. Can everyone see the Canvas site? Let me know if you can see it. Yes, we good? Okay, very good. Thank you, Denise. This is our Canvas site. You've probably already been here and you've probably taken a look at it, but let me just go through, the navigation of the Canvas site and where I have provided the links that you'll need in order to be successful in the class. Again, this is a learning curve. I've used Canvas in the past. I taught a course for UCLA a few years ago, and they used Canvas in that course. And so I've kind of used Canvas before, but I'm kind of relearning it now because that was a couple of years ago. And so as I go along, I figure out things that make it a little bit more user friendly for you. But this is your landing page with your nice little Go Beach. Sometimes I use that as my Zoom background for our class sessions. If you want beach Zoom backgrounds, the university has a variety. They've got probably 20 or 25 different Zoom backgrounds that you can download and use if you would like. I have the assignment section here, and so we have announcements. We have two announcements. This first announcement, obviously, is just your welcome to the course. Provides for you the, let me scroll down here. Provides for you the links to today's session, our last Saturday session, and then our recurring Monday night sessions. Again, it's a recurring meeting, so it's the same link for all those Monday sessions. And just to make sure, I'll go ahead after class today and I'll send out an email to everybody with that link and that Zoom invitation for our Monday night sessions. Then we also have an announcement here called Library Tutorial. And I've got this in student view, so it should look kind of similar to the way in which your Canvas site looks. And what I have done here is I provided for you a link to wait a second, let me get this. There we go. A link to a library tutorial that was created by our librarian, Kelly Janicek. Now, when you click on that link, it's going to say this page is not supported or doesn't have the correct permissions. Ignore that, because on the left side of the page, you'll see she has produced some videos for you in terms of how to do research in public administration, what types of databases to use. She has a link there to all the databases that are useful in public administration. Let me just go there and show you if I can. So ignore that. This page is not currently available because actually all the resources are there. Let's scroll down here. Along the left side here is where get sources, different sources for different topics in public policy, methods, videos on how to do research in public administration, some sites for public policy based research. A lot of good information over here on the left-hand side provided for you by Kelly, so you can avail yourself of that. And then also here is a video, and this is the video that Kelly made for one of our on-campus sessions of PPA 500. It's a lengthy video. It goes for almost 2 hours, but it's a video of our class where she introduced the students how to do research in public administration, gave them a primer on using APA in terms of formatting, which is what we use here in our program. So you can feel free to go and watch that video. You'll have to sit through a 2-hour class, but it's Kelly kind of presenting to you how to do research in the area of public administration. Again, her name is Kelly Janicek. I'll put that in text chat. So if you're ever doing research in future classes and you run into a brick wall in terms of your research and you're really struggling with it, she is a great person to contact because she is our disciplinary librarian. She's the disciplinary librarian for public administration and for political science. And she's been doing it for many, many years. And so she loves responding to student questions and requests. So she'd be very happy to hear from you if you have any research related problems moving forward. And here at Long Beach, in terms of contacting people, emails are just first name dot last name at csulb.edu. It'll be kelly.janicek@csulb.edu. I've got those announcements there for you. Along the way, if anything comes up that may affect one of our Monday sessions, I'll go ahead and put an announcement in the Canvas site, but I hope nothing will come up and all of our sessions will go off as scheduled. Syllabus is provided there for you. So I hope that should be the most recent version of the syllabus. Then most of the information that you're going to need will be located in the modules. Canvas is really organized around modules. So I've got the syllabus there for you in the modules. Whatever the midterm and final assessment are available, they'll pop up there in the module for you. They're just not available yet in student view. I'll make those available 2 weeks before they're due. Then for week number 1, which we are technically in right now, again, another link for the syllabus for you. So you got lots of links to get to the syllabus. Then week 1 American government slides. These are the slides we'll be using for our Monday night session. So you can feel free to download those if you would like. It'll just kind of provide an agenda for the topics that we'll be talking about on Monday night. I'm kind of bare bones in the way in which I do my my slides. And so the slides are more or less bullet points for the agenda topics that we will be talking about. But that's what we'll be using on Monday. There's a preview there for your initial skills self-assessment if you want to look at that again. Then I've got the Reading Articles Confederation, a link there, and you can read the articles. I have a link there for the US Constitution, again, all 7 articles and 27 amendments. And then links to Federalist Papers 10, 39, and 51. Again, focus on 10 and 39 more so than 51. We're not really going to spend a lot of time on it. I do have a link there then for the entire Federalist Papers, all 85 Federalist Papers in their entirety, in case you're interested in reading all 85 papers. You feel free to go ahead and click that link. I then also have a link here for what are called the Anti-Federalist Papers. And most courses, we talk only about the Federalist Papers. But there's a separate set of papers called the Anti-Federalist Papers, written by people like Smith and George Clinton. And those Anti-Federalist Papers argued against the Constitution, argued against the creation of this, what they consider to be too strong of a national government. You are certainly not required to read the Anti-Federalist Papers, but I just want to make you aware of their existence. If you are interested in that, that's a link that will allow you to read the Anti-Federalist Papers, but it is certainly not any required reading for this class, so you don't feel like you have to do it. Then whenever you're ready to do your introductory post, you just click on this link here, and this link will then take you directly to the discussion board. You just click reply, put in your introduction, hit submit, and you're good to go. So I put all the assignments I put right into each one of our relevant weeks, just to make it easier for you to access. Here is your link here for this American government pre-assessment. So you click on that and it'll take you directly to the pre-assessment. Again, it's 20 multiple choice questions, 4 minutes for the entire thing, and it's non-graded and it is also anonymous. So you just click take the quiz and then your clock starts ticking and then you have 4 minutes to answer those 20 multiple choice questions. Okay, going back to the modules. And so I think that's pretty much it for module number 1, except for your first Canvas essay. Now, your first graded Canvas essay is due by March the 5th. So when you're ready to do that, you just click on that. That'll take you directly to your discussion area. Here is your prompt on Madison and Federalist number 10. And just click reply, put in your initial response, click submit, and you'll have them responded. And then you can respond to each of your classmates as you go. Again, just 2 of your classmates, not everyone, just 2 of your classmates as you proceed through the week. And that Canvas essay number 1 and your 2 responses due by March 5th. So you kind of get the hang of it. Week number 2, there's our accountability and ethics slides. There's a link to the Ask the Code of Ethics. Canvas essay number 2, which is due by March 12th. And then the initial skills assessment due by March 12th as well. For the initial skills self-assessment, you click on that. Here's a copy of the self-assessment again, if you need it again, and then you just click upload. You can then upload your initial skills self-assessment directly to that Dropbox. In that initial skills self-assessment, you can feel free to just use the Word form that I've given for you in this initial skills self-assessment and just answer the questions directly on there. And that's absolutely fine. I think that'll make it a lot easier for you. So that's module number 2. Module 3, we'll get into differences between public and private sectors and public and private organizations. Then we'll get into the theoretical approaches and the discipline of public administration in week number 4. Canvas essay number 3 is due then. Then in week number 5, we'll do public policy. We'll talk about decision-making models and effectiveness, and maybe if we have time, start our discussion of the beginnings of management of human resources. I have a few links here for examples that we're going to refer to as we talk about managing human resources, things like point factor job evaluations and different types of performance evaluations, and then Canvas essay number 4. In our final week, managing fiscal resources, I have some examples of different budget types that we will refer to during our discussion. And then your final Canvas essay, which is due on April 15th. So you can access everything pretty much through the modules. If you want to access things individually, you can click on discussions and access each one of our discussions individually here. So they're all listed under discussions. Assignments are also then listed under assignments. You can access them that way as well. So just multiple ways in which you can access assignments. You know, the pre-assessment, American Government pre-assessment, you can access that directly through the quizzes if you would like to. So just different ways in which you can access information. But the one-stop shopping really is in the modules. I put all the links for all the assignments and all the discussions right there in each module, organized by the relevant week of one of our 6 weeks. So that's kind of our Canvas site. Again, it's pretty user-friendly. It's kind of bare bones, but it provides all the information that you need to be successful in the class, and gives you multiple ways in which you can access that information. But doing it through the modules usually works best. And that's the one-stop shopping that Canvas provides for us. Okay, any questions on the Canvas side? I'll also point out to you real quick that on the right side here, you have your calendar. And so it will remind you when you have assignments coming up. And so your to-dos, you have an introduction post that you should do by tomorrow, American Government pre-assessment that you should do by 6 o'clock on Monday, February 27th, your initial skills self-assessment coming up on March 12th. And so it will alert you whenever you have assignments coming up. Usually all the assignments will pop up there as they start to become due. So again, just to help you out, help you stay organized and stay on top of the assignments. Any questions on the Canvas site, the course in general, anything we've covered so far this morning? If not, then let me go ahead and open it up for any questions about the program. So you've had about a week now to digest the information that you received at the orientation. Any questions about programmatic things that you thought of after the orientation ended? I think we covered most everything in the orientation, but.
Hi, I'm looking back at the course schedule and I realized that the bottom of the first page for course 512, it says that our classes are going to be on Wednesdays. I assume that's just a typo.
Yes, that's just a typo, right? Yeah, that was a typo from cohort 22. So yes, they will all be on Mondays. Thanks for bringing that up. I'll go and make that correction. Yep, every course, every class session will be on Mondays except for your Saturday sessions. Anything else? Any other questions or anything I can help you with while you have me here this morning?
I do have a question. My question is, the best form of contact would be through your email. I do see that we do have that option here in Canvas that says invoice. Is it connected to the same school email or?
Exactly. Yeah, that's a great point. It is. Yeah. And so if you send me a message through Canvas, it immediately goes to my email. And so I can respond either directly from my email or I can go back in Canvas and respond to you. So yes, you can use that feature in Canvas. It'll go directly to my email. So either way is absolutely fine. All goes to the same place.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yeah, well, thank you. That's a great point. Okay.
I have one quick question, Dr. Powell. I think you mentioned it earlier, but for the Zoom meetings, you'll be emailing us links or meeting IDs. When I clicked on the invitation through Canvas, it took me to Zoom, but then I had to put in a meeting ID. So you'll be providing that for us?
Yeah, this afternoon, I'll go ahead and I'll send you out the link to our Monday sessions, and I'll send you the invites. They'll have all the information there, and that will be good for all 6 of our Monday sessions. So I'll send it out this afternoon.
Great. Thank you so much.
Sure. Very good questions. Okay, well, I want to be respectful of your time. Again, I took some of your Saturday away from you last weekend. I don't want to take more time than I have to away from you this Saturday. So if there are no other questions, then thanks for being here this morning. I'll send that link out this afternoon. And we'll be back at it again then on Monday at 6 o'clock, covering the basics of American government. So I also see, and Claire had a question about the textbooks and used textbooks. I actually looked, not that I don't represent any organizations or anything, so I'm not a paid spokesperson, but I just know I've had my third kid is finishing up his senior year of college, and I've got another kid who's in a college of medicine. And so I've had a lot of experience with kids buying textbooks and running textbooks. And Chegg is one that my kids have used a lot. And I went on Chegg and I saw that I think the Kettle textbook is like $23 on Chegg. Yeah, Heidi said she used Chegg. And I know both textbooks are available on Chegg. I was shocked. I think Kettle's like $23 or something like that. So yeah, there are places like Chegg online that you can get the textbooks at a pretty cheap cost. Yeah, Amazon also has them pretty cheap as well. And yeah, and sometimes, yeah, you get a PDF of the text online. I've done that in the past as well too. So sometimes you can get that. And the bookstore also has a rental feature. That's something that's new as of about 5 or 6 years ago. Back when I was in Illinois, in Eastern Illinois, 27 years ago, 26 years ago, we actually had a rental option at Eastern Illinois long before Long Beach got it. But yeah, you're welcome to either purchase or to rent the textbooks. That's completely up to you. Okay, well, thank you, everyone. Again, any questions that emerge between now and Monday, feel free to send me an email. Otherwise, we'll be back at 6 o'clock on Monday talking about the foundations of American government. So welcome again to the cohort. Welcome to PPA 500. And I really look forward to working with you over the next 2 years. So have a great weekend and we'll talk again on Monday. So thanks, everyone. Take care.
Bye, everyone.
Bye,
Have a
Professor.
great weekend.
Have a good weekend.
Thank you.